How's it going, everyone? Got a lot to talk about in this video. Expedition 33 has hit yet another major milestone. This one, I think one of the biggest so far. I mean, it's obviously the biggest so far, but it's a pretty cool one, so we'll talk about that. A game that I think will hit a lot of milestones for a lot of different reasons is Elden Ring Nightreign. We'll talk about that as well in a little bit. And I have a bit of an update on a game that I would definitely not recommend anybody to pick this game up day one. I would definitely wait and see how it turns out. But Mindseye finally has a little bit of a trailer that'll give us some insight on the game. We'll talk that at the end of this video. But right off the bat, Clair, Obscur, Expedition 33. This game's momentum cannot be stopped as Sandfall Interactive and publisher Kepler Interactive have announced that the game, 33 days after release, has hit 3.3 million units sold. What an insane number. This is not 3.3 million units, or excuse me, 3.3 million players. This is units sold. So this isn't even including people playing the game on Xbox Game Pass, and that's gonna be a huge talking point, I think, when we assess other numbers of games, games such as Doom the Dark Ages, which has certainly been in the talking point as far as how that game is seemingly underperforming commercially, and a lot of points being brought up. Expedition 33, obviously a $50 game, and it's a game coming from a brand new studio, a brand new IP. Look, I've been covering this game going back to June of 2024. The day this game was revealed at the Xbox Game Showcase captured my interest immediately. I remember messaging multiple people about it, telling my friends that are more on the casual side of gaming, yo, look into this game, and, you know, I, in my wildest imagination, would have never expected this game to hit this level of success. Honestly, I would have been ecstatic if over time this game would have hit 1 million copies sold, especially because it's available on Game Pass, but I think the element of this being a $50 game, and it just being a game that at $50, you also have a decent bit of content. There's a lot of factors in place. It had that momentum and that aura of coming out of nowhere. You know, all the kids saying, you know, aura. As far as games having aura, Expedition 33 is a game that has aura, and I hate that now. You know, all of these TikToker terms are now coming into my vocabulary, but nonetheless, Expedition 33 be aura farming all of these games around it, but that I don't think even makes sense with how that terminology is supposed to be used, but you get the idea. How this game has ramped up momentum over the course of a month since its release is legitimately insane. For a new IP, I couldn't have imagined Kepler Interactive would have expected this level of success. And from what I've heard, Kepler was expecting this game on Metacritic to hit the 80 range. Got a little bit of insight, and that's what Kepler was expecting. Sandfall, I don't know what their expectations were, but obviously the game has exceeded all of that. Is the game absolutely perfect? No. But the fact that this was coming from a new studio, a fairly small studio, I don't know what the budget attached to this game, but obviously this game was a resounding success, and it's only gonna continue to sell more and more. This is one of those games that I think after it's a nomination for Game of the Year, after DLC comes out, after it gets re-released as a complete edition, Game of the Year edition with the DLC, after a Switch 2 port happens, there's factors that are going to make this game ultimately hit 5, 6, 7 million copies sold. I have no doubt in my mind it's going to hit that threshold. Final Fantasy 16 sold 3 million copies in 1 week, but Final Fantasy 16 was one of those games that I think sold a lot initially off the Final Fantasy name and then tapered off. I think a lot of games taper off. I do not think Expedition 33 is going to have that issue, especially because when you assess it from a Steam concurrent player count number, let's pull this number out. Remember, this is a single player game. It's still cracking 50,000 concurrent players, 70,000 at times. This is a month and a half after release. Usually, games fall off a cliff around this time period if they're a single-player oriented game. You know, some live service games will retain their audience, but for a single-player game retaining that level of audience and that level of concurrent player count, that to me tells me, and obviously based on the metrics we have available to us, this is a game that has been getting more and more people to check it out after hearing about it, and the discussion around the game has grabbed the attention of more and more people. Maybe a lot of people, the day Expedition came out, picked up Oblivion, remastered it, and they were playing that, but at this point they're beating that game, and now they're like, okay, let's check out this Expedition game, and I think, you know, more and more people talking about it, more and more people beating the game and then talking about it even more. I think it's just gaining more and more traction, and again, the number exponentially increasing to this extent when conventional wisdom would have you believe that a game will sell the bulk of its units within the first 3 days and then really fall off. There are some games that buck the trend. Helldivers 2 is one of those games that is a paid game that bucked that trend, but that's also a live service game. But I would argue Helldivers 2, even though it's a live service game, had a lot of that element of Expedition 33, where the discussion around the game is what really elevated the game. And with new IPs, or, you know, games that are going a little bit under the radar, which I would say back in February of 2024, Helldivers 2 was, it's that discussion around the game that's going to really elevate it. But because we're in this new era of gaming, it's not as much about having a gigantic marketing budget. A lot of the times, it's about having that discourse on social media, people talking about it. And obviously, you have to be a top-level game. And the reality is, there are games that aren't at a top level that don't resonate at the level of Expedition 33. You know, want to know another game that came out right around the time of Expedition 33? The Last Defense 100 Line Academy. I always botch the name. I think I got it right, but don't quote me on that. That's a game that, you know, relatively to expectations, I feel like it did fairly well, given that I believe it was the most played Kodaka game on Steam as far as peak concurrent player count, which is pretty good. But that game obviously didn't gain the traction of Expedition, but that game's also, you know, a weeb-centric Japanese RPG. It's super quirky. Expedition 33, from an artistic standpoint, definitely a little bit different than the other JRPGs that are coming out. So as much as I want, like, Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky first chapter to do well, it's not going to do Expedition 33 well, but hopefully people do give that game a chance as well. But I think Expedition 33, I think this game, you know, games like Black Myth Wukong, games like Stellar Blade, certainly should be a case study about what resonates with the audience in 2025-2024 with Wukong and Stellar Blade. It's really just something to assess, and I think, you know, some publishers, I think, are just going the wrong way, and, you know, I look at a Ubisoft, I look at a PlayStation a lot of the times, and I'm just like, I think you don't have your finger on the pulse of what your consumer wants. But maybe we need the more of the fair games, of the Concords, and these games to come out and bomb, and then PlayStation will finally course correct. But we'll see about that. But Expedition 33, major milestone hit on that. All right, moving on from that, another game that I think is going to crush it as I've been looking more into it and, you know, getting more insight on the game. Elden Ring Nightreign. We uploaded a lengthy preview video of this game and did a lot of research looking into this game. And as somebody that is not huge on the Souls-like games, man, doing all of the coverage for this game made me excited for this game. I was like, okay, this sounds, I'm not gonna say totally up my alley, but this is a game now I have a vested interest in, which 6 months ago, 8 months ago, I generally didn't have that. I was just like, okay, it's a From Software game. It's gonna do well. It's a multiplayer-focused game. I don't really know how to feel about that. But then when you actually look into the game, and I've talked to multiple people that they didn't really know what to expect out of Nightreign and what the game was. They just had an interest in it because it's From Software, it has that Elden Ring IP, and then I explained it to them and they're like, whoa, this sounds really cool. And the fact is, you've got From Software, who have an immense amount of goodwill with their audience. You have the Elden Ring IP being utilized in a brand new game, and it's at a $40 price tag. I think this is another game that is going to showcase that, yes, not every game can go the budget price point route of being $50 like Expedition, $50 like Oblivion, but Elden Ring, and I think there's a lot of factors working for Elden Ring, it is going to slam dunk home run it. I'm not going to say it'll have the concurrent player counts of Elden Ring, the original release, but I think it's going to do really freaking well, and this is one of those games that already has a lot of momentum leading into its release. I think that's going to exponentially increase once people get their hands on it, once people are begging their boys to pick it up and their buddies to pick it up, given that you want a 3-player squad, you can play the game offline solo, and I think the fact that that is available also is going to make people excited, but I think a lot of people are going to want to go online, and then they're going to badger their buddies to pick it up as well, and their buddies are going to be like, it's $40, let me just go pick it up, it's $40, that's all it is, and I think that's a big factor when games like Expedition pop off. It's like, it's $50, they're doing me a solid by pricing this accordingly, let me go check it out. I think Nightreign is going to benefit from a lot of that as well, and I'm talking about it because the launch trailer did drop. It's due out on May the 30th, it'll be May 29th on PC because of the time conversion and whatnot of how they do those releases, but I think some people are going to be surprised by just how well this game does. I'm very confident that this game is going to crush it. And it's Elden Ring. I think everybody knew that it was going to do fairly well, but I think some people were pushing back on the multiplayer side of things. But looking into this game, and it does feel like From Software took the formula that they had, they put a new twist on it, and it's going to engage people to check it out, and that includes people that have been longtime fans of these games, and I know that there is that audience that got, you know, they got bought into the hype of Elden Ring and they played it and it wasn't for them. I've said it a few times, but I had a buddy that isn't into Souls-like games that bought Elden Ring on Steam, refunded it, and his exact reasoning was, I'm not built for this game. And I think that's applicable to a lot of people that ended up picking up Elden Ring. But Elden Ring's also one of those games that there's like some data out there that as far as time invested into the game, as far as Steam hours go, a significant portion of the audience that own the game have north of 100 hours that have played the game. So obviously there's a strong attachment to it, and I think Nightreign is just going to absolutely slam dunk it, and it's going to do very, very well, and it's going to be another home run from Software from a commercial standpoint. We'll see how it does critically and whatnot, but commercially I'm really confident that this is going to do even better than people expect. And maybe that's not a hot take, maybe, whoa buddy, you're saying Elden Ring's going to do well, what a hot take there, but I do think it's going to do better than people even expect. But that's my 2 cents. Lastly, a game that I don't think is going to do all that hot. I'm going to be real with you guys. This Mindseye game, I don't know. Build a Rocket Boy has released a new trailer and screenshots for single-player action-adventure game Mindseye, as well as detailed updates about the game's creation tools, and they are planning updates for the game. Now, to me, this screams like a game that we're gonna get it out. We need an infusion of cash to keep the game going, and we'll update it as long as we can go, and we'll add the content that should be in the game right out the gate. Because to me, it screams that it's pretty bare bones. They do know we're beyond excited to bring Mindseye to players worldwide. Our team has poured passion into creating a game that not only delivers an unforgettable story, but also empowers players to shape their own experiences with our game creation tools. With constant updates and new content from our team, Mindseye will be a journey that keeps on giving. We'll see how it turns out. I wanted to give mention to this game because it's one of those games that I'm sure it'll come out, and just on the visuals and the style of the game, it'll have some interest, but I would be very, like, keep your expectations tempered. I want this game to do well. It's coming from Leslie Benzie's IO Interactive Partners is publishing it. You know, and visually it looks pretty good, but I would be very reserved. I would have an interest in the game in terms of, you know, keep an eye on it, see how it turns out, but it is $60. Pre-orders are open now. Just wait for this game. I don't think I'll ever strongly say wait for a game as I'll say wait for Mindseye, but follow it, see how it's received, but I would definitely say wait to drop your money on it. But that'll do it for me. Again, Expedition 33 hits a major milestone with 3.3 million copies sold in 33 days. Elden Ring Nightreign gets its launch trailer. I think that game is going to absolutely crush it, and Mindseye is one of those games that, I don't have the Elden Ring Nightreign confidence in that game, but keep an eye on it. Just don't be pre-ordering it. That's something I'll say with a definitive opinion. Do not be pre-ordering this game. But that'll do it for me. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.